One of the things about I find Island politics is Island politicians in general is that they go, what have you people done? It's wonderful to see our people in these sorts of positions. Yeah, wonderful. I'm glad that I'm alive to see that. But I said to someone the other day, Sepuloni is a deputy leader of Labour. Yeah. And once upon a time, she was deputy prime minister. Yeah. Mm. And I in my head, if I will confront this and I say, well, if that's the case, that's all nice. But why didn't you go another step further and actually go for the Labour leader job? Or why didn't you put your hand up for the prime minister job? Yeah.
Is there a reason?
You tell me. You tell me.
They don't want an islander that high up.
Could be. And that's always been my issue with a lot of island MPs. You look at the island MPs out in South Auckland, quiet as a mouse. Quiet. You know? You barely hear boo. And again, what have they done for those communities to be voted in constantly? And our problem with our people also is that we vote for the sake of, they look like us, one of us. Or it's for religious reasons. You know? Samoans go to church, yep, or vote for one of ours. And that's how I look at it. But I'm always a believer, if you once you leave politics, if you haven't done anything significant that impacts our communities or our people, what's the point? What is the point? Why were you there? You know, you're just there to make up the numbers. Because that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Back of 135 podcast, part of the Cam Schuster Podcast feed, part of the mighty West West Network. Go check out our website, thewestwest.com, www.thewestwest.com, for all our articles, movie reviews, business articles, and sports opinions, and links to the rest of our podcasts on the network on our website, www.thewestwest.com. You can find the Cam Schuster Podcast on the West West Network social media. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, we're on X, formerly known as Twitter. So like and subscribe those too. Yeah, man, this is episode number 4 of the Back on 135 for 2026. There's also episode 241 if you're keeping count of all our episodes. But yeah, man, I got the privilege to be talking to the Kazi. He's running for the elections this year in November as an independent. We talked about his campaign. We talked about his launch that he had a couple of weeks ago. We talked about his his campaign and what he believes in terms of like what he wants for our country. Talked about policies, what the parties are doing now, his opinions on social welfare, education, foreign affairs, and the cost of living right now in our country, and the ways he believes he can fix things. So yeah, man, it's an interesting chat. If you're into politics, this is the episode to listen to. I'm into politics too. I haven't caught up with a few things lately, but you want to get a chance, interesting stuff, and good to get a refresher on what's going on in the world of politics, especially here in New Zealand. We did touch about island politics as well, what's going on in Samoa, which was pretty cool. But yeah, man, had a good chat with those, and yeah, man, keep an eye out for his campaign out there in West Auckland, especially. And he's got an event coming up in September, public talk. So we'll stay tuned to, we'll get that out for you guys if you want to see, especially if you live in the West Auckland area. All right. Yeah, man, what more can I say? Let's get into it. All right. Welcome to my guest, Tua Schuster. Let's roll the intro. Let's go.
morning.
Good morning, Tua. How are you, man?
How are you, bro?
I'm good.
Been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a while. In fact, I think probably 2 years since you come on the podcast. So I'm glad to have you, man.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you allowed me to come and see you. So
Yeah.
you're probably the first media personnel that I've actually spoke to at the moment. So hopefully it won't be the last.
Oh, thank you for that.
So
Now, it's always good to get people in from the community to come and talk to me on the podcast. It's sort of my thing, and sort of what I really want to do. I want to push hard for this year, like to get a lot of Pacific Island community on the podcast, just have a chat, you know. And I don't care who it is, like anyone that's, because I feel like a lot of people have stories to tell. You know, it doesn't matter where you are in life, like they can be inspiring, and they are inspiring, you know. So I try to dig deep into the grassroots of it all, you know.
Yeah. I mean, politics has its own ups and downs, as we are seeing around the world and local and national in our country as well. So, so there's a day that goes by where something's in the news, you know, somebody's talking about something.
Now, you're a guy I had on the podcast before. You're a guy that's into politics. You love politics. You care about what goes on, and especially in the West Auckland community, local government, and the country. You're also a fan of American politics too, if I can remember. You recently had your campaign launch.
Yeah.
You invited me too. I couldn't come. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't come because I was busy.
I get it.
With the podcast. I had a guest on that day.
I get it.
Maybe if you invited me earlier, I would have. I would have come. But how did that go?
Yeah, no, it went well. I mean, it did its job. I was more of a birthday celebration / launch, and because of the election laws, you know, you had to do it in a certain way.
So what are those election laws?
You couldn't entice people. Like if I invite you or a few people to a room or a hall or something, and I provide lunch or something like that, that's regarded as cheating. That's regarded as trying to convince people to vote for you because you provided lunch. So they're quite strict in that.
Oh, yeah. So / birthday, that's the way around it? Yeah. Is that a loophole?
So, but no, I mean, like I said, I mean, I was up in RSA Glenhead, and a lot of people there. It's a place I go to frequently. And I know a lot of people and potential voters as well. Even the likes of Waiparia Trust people, they frequent that place. And of course, you know, they're tied up with Te Pāti Māori. I know a lot of them as well.
Waiparia Trust there moved out of that spot in Henderson, on the corner there. So where are they now?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite, I don't know where they are located. I think it's not too far. But, you know, it's an interesting times with concerning Te Pāti Māori this year. So, yeah, they got a fight in their hands, obviously. So
yeah, I heard about that. That's been going on for a little while. Like there's been scrutinized with where the money's coming from or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I know, what's his name?
Tamahiri.
John Tamahiri. Man, I love that guy. Like, I love that guy. Like, he had this show on, I think it was on the radio station. I forgot what radio station it was.
With Jackson.
Yeah. Willie Jackson. Man, that was one of my favorite shows back then. Like, they would go on 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
And those two just, they're banter.
I never followed them, but they're different sort of personalities compared to, you know, Balangi radio personalities or TV personalities, completely different. And for me, it's better in that way that you can understand the likes of when you hear Māori or even island people talk, you can understand them to a certain extent, unless you're one of those Māori or like Shane Jones, or even an islander like Aucklander, who speaks differently, who articulates things differently. So sometimes simple is the best way when you speak to people, not using jargon that you need a dictionary to decipher the words.
Well, that show I remember of John and Willie, like their language, it's relatable to a lot of Polynesians, and I'm sure their show got in like a lot of listeners.
Yeah,
right? It did, and I was really, man, that was the first show that I heard on the radio between these two guys that really, they had a real commentary on today's politics in terms of how it affects Polynesian people in New Zealand, Pacific Islanders, or the Māori community as well. But their banter is nothing like any other, like white person's sort of same sort of banter, right? Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I know people who talk that way, who relate that way, who speak that way, and I have to sort of change it a little bit when I speak to them, in their sort of way that they can understand. If I speak to some of these people in a way that I want to, that if I can, be speaking to a prime minister or CEO, it'll be slightly different than to people that may not necessarily use big words. So, and that's a good thing when you have the likes of Willie Jackson, for instance. When you hear him on TV, completely different when you hear him on TV. To say a lot of other politicians who are more academic, business, when they speak, and so and that's the difference between the likes of Willie Jackson and Tau Hanere and all these other guys that can relate to workers, just normal people. So I know a lot of those people.
Yeah. Coming back to your campaign, like at Aucklander, how successful was that in terms of like start off your political career now?
Yeah, no, I mean, the last time you saw me, it was all about a learning process. I started putting my foot in 2016 up in Roscoe by-election. That's when Michael Woods was the incumbent. So I tested the water in that year. I think it was about 77 votes from memory. And in the following year, I entered the general election up in 2017 as an independent up in Te Atatu. So again, it was all a learning process. I think it was about 100 and something I got people voted for me in Te Atatu. The following year, I also stood in the local body elections. I went for two places. One for Massey Henderson, which is the incumbent now. Something is Shane Henderson. And also I went for the city council position, Waitakere city council position, which was at that time held by Linda Cooper. So I went for two positions to see, how it would go. All combined votes when it came out that particular year, it was almost about 8,000 votes. For those two positions that I stood for in that particular year. So that gave me a good understanding that slowly I'm building up a profile, not the profile that you see a lot of people with ads and campaigning, because I don't have the resources for that. But for me, it's all about this sort of thing. When I work, the job that I do, I deal with a lot of people every day. And when I get a minute or two, I speak to random people every day. When I go to Luxo RSA or shopping or something like that, and people I talk to, I always mention elements of politics. That's how I try and break the ice, you know. And it's amazing how people can actually let their guard down when they talk to someone who they probably don't conceive as a politician. A lot of people would see me as someone who would never consider being in that position, and I get it, because it's a certain type of people that society sees that normally go in certain occupations. And I do get it, and that helps me too as well. When I campaign during. Would it be shopping, or would it be working? Would it be during the night time I work, or early hours in the morning? So everyone that I react is always an element of politics I put in there as well, for them to keep it in their heads. So next time. So that's how I campaigned in the last few years since the last time you saw me.
That's interesting, because as an independent, automatically you think, okay, you're like lifting a rock up the hill.
Yeah.
Right, but I think over time, and you probably learned this the first time around, but now having to know the numbers that you can pull and the way you're doing it, and all you're doing is, you're right, you're not campaigning like what the big parties are doing. You don't have billboards around, but the use of your social media, because I always see you on your social media, you're commenting on every single things that that affect you. Including the cost of living stuff, and that I see it on social media. That's another way of getting your name out there, like
it is,
and stuff like that. So, and I remember when you came in last time, what inspired me with your talk last time was,
2 hours,
3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Oh gosh,
but that's good. That's good. But one thing that inspired me when we first had a chat was when you were talking about how to test yourself, to test your opinions out in the public, and you can do that through social media. Like whatever you think you have an opinion on, doesn't matter how, like what would come back on you. Like if it's unpopular opinion, if it's something like social media is a good place to test it. It is, right, and don't be afraid about the pushback, negativity. Yeah. Or even the positive ones. I mean, positive ones help, but the negative ones help even more.
Yep.
And that's all about like what goes out there. Like, what's the thing where, and that's a general way of debunking like unpopular opinions. Huh?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I belong to several community sites. I also belong to several private sites, people you join and you comment and stuff like that. And a lot of them are left-leaning sites. And that is also very soon I will be putting my name towards in those sites in postings to let the people that are in those threads that I'm standing as an independent. Because again, that's one of my ways, because of resource issues, to get my name out there. And everything that I comment is always an element of letting the people who read this know about my thoughts about certain issues. Because I thrive on watching a lot of things happening. Not only local and national, or as well as international as well. You spoke about America. Yeah, I watch that on a constant basis every day. But I also watch and read about what's happening in, say, the likes of UK, the likes of what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in the South Africa continent. in Australia. There's a lot of things that are happening in many, many countries around the world that we may think that we're safe and we're sort of secure because we live so far in the other side of the world, but we don't. The world, with social media and the internet is small now. It's literally small. So whatever's happening in America or UK affects us as well. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I told you like before we jumped on the mics, well, for me personally at work, like I'm going through a restructure at work, and it might end up to be some redundancies happening.
Yes,
and that's only because we got our clients are corporate clients that rely on overseas investment.
Yeah.
And with the war going on, the oil, the Ukraine stuff, it's affected our clients, and affected their bottom line, especially with overseas investment, but also the elections too. So every election year, it's in general, every election year that it's our clients stop spending money because they want to see what happens. And it's even prevalent now because of the stuff happening overseas, and so that they sort of took their foot off the brakes early because of election. But after the elections happen in November, like the government has to sort it out, and then you got holidays, and then the government doesn't come back until about probably mid-March or late March, and then they start putting things in place. So we won't probably see any movement in our sector until March next year. So yeah, we are struggling at work, and we'll feel the effects in the next few weeks. We're going through the process now. But yeah, man, no, you're right. Like, we think it doesn't affect us being in New Zealand, small country out the way, but it does when it comes to business.
I mean, the election of Donald Trump has changed all that. It's changed the world order that we...
With the tariffs and that?
It's changed how we do things. As simple as that. He's an idiot. He's a moron. Simple as that. But having said that, it's also now brought up a reason that he's tested every norms and safeguards in American politics. He's tested all that because you would think that the likes of America could never ever allow someone like him to be in the top job. But here we are. So if he can do that, future presidents will now see that as a potential. Okay, well, if Donald Trump can do that, we will do that in the future. This is what future presidents or future governments or parties in America have to scared of, because now Donald Trump has opened up everything. There's no longer things going out to Congress, where Congress makes the choices of money that goes out to wherever. He's basically just writing executive orders left, right, and center, things like that. So there's not a day that goes by that something happens that's happening in America. Every day there's something happening in America, and it's basically a distraction, to put the media off, one topic, and so he does something else. So that the media can go after this other particular thing as well, I mean, the war in Iran is not the last. Cuba is in their sights. Cuba. And that's a concerning thing as well. Again, it's all about oil. It's all about oil, And America is probably the only warmonger country in the last 50 years or 75 years that has started many wars. China hasn't started a war in ages. So we're waiting to see what's going to happen when 2028 comes, when Trump is supposed to finish his term. Whether he'll step down, don't know. No.
It's fascinating to me what Trump has done. Trump has affected the world in terms of the negative stuff, and the stuff that you just said. Like, he's now opened the door to ways of getting in. Like, no one would think they would have a chance. Like, who would ever thought Donald Trump would be the president? Even Obama.
But who
jumped
would have,
around like?
Oh yeah, I mean,
it
took something like 240 plus years for black men to actually become president of the United States. But then again, because I, as I said to you before, I follow politics quite closely. Barack Obama is a black man, but he's educated in a white education system. So if you listen to him speak, it's not your typical a black person that you know watching movies and stuff like that. So that's the difference between an education or the likes of Barack Obama and say maybe LeBron James. When you hear him speak, it's a little bit different. But they're now waiting to see whether a woman can become president in America. No, they haven't broken the ceiling. And the problem with America is they still have this fixation that a certain ethnic group is the person that can be in charge. And it's a problem with America. They can't get in their heads that countries like America was built on immigration, was built on the blood of a lot of people from overseas for many, many years, who sacrificed their lives and so forth, not just the settlers. The same here, same as New Zealand, same as Australia. We're seeing a rise of more right-wing parties. Australia is just the latest one, with Pauline Hanson, One Nation. That's scary. Yeah, that's scary. No? Who would have thought that? I've always known, through talking to people in the past, that Australia had tendencies of being a bigoted, racist country. I've always known that through talking to a lot of people. But with Trump coming on board, now everybody can see that it's a blueprint. And you're seeing what's happening with our own members of other parties like ACT, like New Zealand First. So if you listen to their rhetoric, there's an element of bigoted views there, especially against indigenous rights, Māori rights. I hope that Māori step up this year, to be honest, because if they don't, if the likes of National and ACT, and with the help of New Zealand First, and possibly even the help of Opportunities Party, then you're going to see more of this particular coalition now thinking that they have a mandate and now pushing through more divisive policies in the future.
I think it was last year I saw a trend of right-wing politics coming into the global scale.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was
France.
It was Germany. I think Germany was getting into it because of all the Turkish people moving in, the immigrants. They were pushing back on that. Brazil's well-known right-wing sort of country. Obviously Trump. But then, in New Zealand, like with the ACT Party sort of thing, in New Zealand First, like Australia.
Yep.
Like the Australian one is scary. Like that, they're Pauline Hanson. What's she talking about? She's talking about like getting rid of all the immigrants, all the Kiwis. They come in like no more automatic.
If you're a citizen, they don't worry. But if you come there, if you're not a citizen, it's what's the difference? But it's no different to here. Because the coalition wants to do that. Winston Peters recently, he wants to change the immigration laws. So to vote, you have to be a New Zealand citizen, not a permanent resident. That's what Winston wants.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, why? It shouldn't. I only became a citizen about maybe 5 years ago. It was only a bloody a piece of cardboard, And the only reason why I did that was because I didn't have a passport. I needed a passport. So I even got a passport recently because I wasn't really fussed about attaining a piece of paper to say that I'm a citizen. I voted as a resident for many years. So what's the difference? I pay tax. I've helped build this country for many years and since the age of 13. So for anyone like Winston to say that you have to be a citizen, again, it's from the book of right-wing people that want to push all this narrative that all the country's problems are caused by immigrants. So it's not surprising that this is going to be an election where immigration will be front and center. The trade deal with India is a classic example. So expect some fireworks.
Yeah, that trade deal is interesting. Like, trade is supposed to be for products in my book.
Yeah.
And then for India to add in people, human beings.
Yeah.
Sense of human trafficking to me, like.
So it's funny. That's part of the problem where Winston seems to think that way. That having too many people coming here is going to be a problem. I get it. But if previous and past governments had done their job 20, 30, 40, 50 years, done their job in building infrastructure when it was not as expensive at that time, we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't have infrastructure that we need now that should have been built years ago. We wouldn't have positions like nurses and doctors where they could have trained them years ago. But no, they didn't. They didn't look ahead in time. They didn't have the foresight to do that. It's all about, where's the money going to come from? Everything's about money. How are we going to pay for it? Well, and they're moaning about how we're going to pay for that now. And I said, well, you should have done it 30, 40, 50 years ago when you had that opportunity. No?
The expenditure that came up when National won last election, with the Labour government spending all this money, that was what they seemed like put all their chips in that basket. Like, you guys are spending so much money, we're in a big debt, so you guys got to go. And then they made all these cuts when they came into power, right? They made all these government job cuts.
The coalition?
The coalition. Now, it's like the cost of living is still going up. Like, inflation's high. 1.4% or 4%, 4.4% is the latest figures for inflation. The cost of living is going up. We can all feel it now. People are calling for help. How is National if National wins again? Because I think, like, what this coalition does is it's slowing things down. Like, before I was a big fan of MMP. Now I'm not. I'm not now. I want to go back to first past the post, because at least you get a government with the ideas that haven't got no influence from the
party donors.
Yeah, the party donors, corporate donors. Plus, and have no influence from ACT Party or Green Party if you're Labour, or Yara Party. If you're Labour and National, that's pretty much centre left, centre right. That's pretty much where New Zealand is, and that's pretty much where I am.
I mean, I voted for MMP. I voted for equal opportunity from different ethnic groups and communities, and on paper it looked right. On paper, it was the right thing to do. The problem is that nothing is set in gold on paper. When you're dealing with lawyers and stuff like that, and Parliament is full of lawyers. It's full of lawyers. Winston is an ex-lawyer. Collins, Judith Collins, ex-lawyer. A lot of lawyers, ex and current. And when you're dealing with a lot of those people, it's a matter of changing certain elements that will suit what they want to achieve. And with the likes of MMP, it never worked the way it should have worked. When you have parties like Act, who was 6% or something, or 8% when I got in there, and New Zealand First, just over 6%. But yet, these two parties have so much power, so much influence. Why? I can only assume that Luxon was so desperate to become PM that he would basically give them these parties, throw in the kitchen sink so that he can get their title. That's my only reasoning for him to basically bend over backwards and give Winston what he wanted, even David Seymour what he wanted, because Labour would not have done that. And this is the problem we see now, where you have two parties of very few people or percent that voted for them had so much influence, and it should not have been the way.
Well, that creates a new level of how to crown the king and to make the deals in the background. Because, like you said, like if you're a party on the fringes and you get in with 8%, what's 8% compared to the rest of the percentage
that's right.
That one, and then you can make a deal. I'll make me the deputy prime minister, or I'll go somewhere else. And you're holding to ransom that kind of power. So yeah, it's.
Luxon was.
It can't be helped.
I was surprised that Luxon did not fall back on any assistance from the likes of maybe Joyce and other former previous ministers. They would have helped him negotiate when we came to coalition deals. Yeah, because in the end, there's no way a key government would have done what he did and give outright more power to the likes of Winston. And Winston knew this. Winston knew that the likes of Luxon was weak in terms of negotiating anything. And that's why he was able to go with them rather than with Labour, because he felt that he would not get what he wanted with Labour if he went with Labour. And you have to remember, National Act did not like New Zealand First. They just hammered him during the campaign because they thought that Winston won't get in, because they thought because his polling has been bad for several months prior to the election day. That's why they were hoping that he would never. He says, he won't make it, he won't make it. Next minute, you go. And they changed their tune.
And then I'll be my friend now.
Yeah, that's it. But that's the nature of this. And this is the thing about what really pisses me off with politics. You say certain things during a campaign, but then or buddy, when suddenly that person is suddenly now could be a future coalition partner. You got to basically kiss ass. That's what it is.
Well, you got to change your tune to who has the money, who has the power. But it reminds me of what's going on at work at the moment. Like, because my industry, we're in the construction industry, and because the money comes from the client. Client hires project managers. If they want to get a project done, they hire project managers. Then they they hire consultants, design the building, and then they go into a tender process to find who the builder is, the contractor is. They build the building, and then hopefully at the end of it, there's no extra costs. There's always extra costs, right? But there's contingency for that. So that's the normal way of doing things. And for us in the construction industry as a consultant, like we rely on the clients to hire us to do our job, to spend money. Right now, it's not happening, right? But at the moment, it's interesting because at the moment, the power is now not going through the client. The power is now with the contractors. Because if you think about it, the contractors are looking at being developers because they can. I mean, they can build the building. All they need is to buy land and to be a developer. So now the power is going to them now, right? So before, when we were as consultants, we would like talk shit about contractors because they're not doing their job properly. We're trying to keep them to account. But before, we're like, they're down in the pecking order. Like, you do what we say. If you don't do it properly, then we're not going to hire you anymore. Or we're not going to give you a reference anymore, right? But now, because it's changed, they're now become more powerful in terms of like being like overtaking the project manager. They're now overtaking because they got their own project managers, and because they're like now want to be a one-stop shop, they want to control the whole thing. So now we have to look to them and be nice to them now, because they'll be potentially our client in the future.
I mean, you would know this more than I would, but from my understanding, in the last at least while this government came in, apparently there was up to maybe 15,000 construction workers' jobs gone. Up to 20 from what I understand. And I have never understood that. I thought we were supposed to be in a construction boom, period. Because we need thousands or hundreds of thousands of houses. But I also didn't quite understand in the meantime, and maybe in the last 5 or so years, that there have been other smaller construction firms go under. I don't understand why. If there was supposed to be a construction boom, why have a lot of these smaller construction firms go under? I mean, I also read about the likes of Fletcher. Fletcher is struggling, and they're supposed to be our biggest construction firm. I don't understand how they haven't been able to achieve, the things that a company the size of Fletcher's should achieve. But I believe they are smaller now than what they used to be, old Fletchers. I've always never understood also, Cam, that if we really wanted to expand building things quickly, how come we've never asked or tendered out internationally to these big construction firms, say in China, for instance, massive, big construction firms to come here who could build in scale. When you hear or read things about what's happening in countries like China, where they can build things quickly without all the RMA issues with consent and all that, I don't understand. I don't understand why. I mean, I've never understood the reason, the rationale about houses, for instance. Why we can't build houses to scale or quickly, because there are firms overseas that can do that. I've never understood whether the government of the day or is afraid to bring in those companies, or the likes of Fletchers who have monopoly or don't want to lose their monopoly. This is what's holding back New Zealand in terms of infrastructure. If we really wanted to get things done quickly and in scale and speed, we had to allow or open up that sector to foreign companies. I never understood that.
The thing with Fletchers, and this is a good case study of how a big company can break in half, right? Because they've lost some of their divisions. Like I think their interiors division was bankrupt. The big factor was the convention center in town at Sky City. So they went in with a low tender, and that was the first problem, the first mistake they had. They practically used up all their money before the concrete went in on the ground.
But I don't even understand, with all the experience, why would you go in with a low tender? Because I also read about the issues that they have in the convention center as well. Massive issues. And I don't understand.
Well, they wanted to beat competition. There was this overseas company that wanted to come in, and they wanted to beat them. But in doing so, their tender was so low that they fell into
the trap.
They fell into the trap.
Got the job.
So the conspiracy was, when the fire happened, they did it on purpose to get the insurance money.
I read the case as well.
But even then, they were struggling. Yeah. So now they're getting sued.
Yeah.
They're getting sued by Sky City, I think. Yeah. Hey, Sky City suing them for $300 million. I mean, and this is after their interiors division went bankrupt. So
but this is part and parcel of the problem. I thought, where's the loyalty to New Zealand companies? From our government. You know what I mean? I would have thought the tender would have gone straight into Fletcher's rather than tendering, waiting for overseas. Why would they have done that? If Fletcher's had been our main construction firm here for decades. It's a family-owned business, who a lot of us know. The name is well known. But why would they have tendered that particular job to others when they should have just given it to
well, it's Sky City's incentive to get the cheapest price.
Yeah.
With the best quality possible.
No, they got it. They got the cheapest price.
Yeah, they got the cheapest price, and they might potentially get another 300 million to cover the loss. Because man, when that fight happened, the setback was unbelievable. Like now it's just open now, and it's been in construction for how many years?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I mean that's another issue itself. You might wonder, well, why would we need another convention centre? We got LT Centre, we got others. All these other places. Why would you need? You need a lot of people coming in or companies coming in to the likes of that particular convention centre and make it profitable in the future. And as we know, with the struggles that the LTS Centre has gone, and even in Town Hall and all that, there's not many, companies that come in and wanting to use such a, because it would be quite pricey, I would say. Probably pricey in a new convention centre,
To talk about your point about why the government is doing much more for New Zealand businesses, like if you look at what China's doing, and I only recently saw this, like what's the car brand that's out now, the BYD? Is it BYD, BDY?
Yeah, that's BYD. BYD. Yeah. That's the EV,
the EV car. That was a company that was going downhill.
Yep.
It was almost bankrupt. It was almost gone until the Chinese government stepped in and sort of relaunched it. They poured how much government funds in it. Look at the company now; it's huge. I think it's surpassed Tesla now with the highest sales of cars now.
You probably forgotten that it didn't succeed simply because of the Chinese government assistance. It also succeeded because of the problems that Tesla, mainly Musk, had during his little short stint as a so-called MP for Trump's personal Doge.
That helped for sure.
So that was mainly the issues that because Tesla had some fault issues as well. So,
but there's an example of a government backing a company from their country. Right?
Yeah. China would do that. I mean, they would do that. And that's the difference between a communist country like China and then companies, in countries, in the Western countries. You have to either sink or swim. Where if China sees a particular company or selling a good products, they will invest in that product. That's the difference.
With the New Zealand government, they got Air New Zealand. They back them a lot. Because they got Air New Zealand on the brand.
I mean that's that's another issue that I've never understood as well. I mean, I'm a believer that a company either goes on its own, whether if they can survive, they survive. If they don't, why are we giving money? Why are we giving money? If there was one asset that I would like to see sold is in New Zealand. Rather than other potential assets that we have, I didn't want to see those gentailers, electricity companies that we have being sold. I didn't want to see that. So there are other better assets that we can keep. But if there's one that I want to get rid of, it'll be the likes of New Zealand.
It's an interesting time now with what's happening around the world with the oil prices and that, because it's allowed, I guess the old saying goes, if with every downhill spiral there's an opportunity.
For who?
For, someone can figure it out. Like at the moment, the freight company Costco?
The supermarket?
No, the freight. They're a company that they have ships. They take containers back and forth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they're now moving into a one-stop shop as well. Like I talked about, like contractors having an opportunity to move into this one-stop shop thing, where they become the guys that build the building and own the building, right? Yes. So the freight company Costco is like trying to do the same thing. Yeah. So they so originally they're a company they're just responsible for delivering containers port to port.
So a franchisee model.
Well, I don't think they're franchise. I think they're just one company, but they're only responsible from port to port, and that's it. But now they're getting into the distribution after the port. So port to port, and then another company takes over, moves the containers like DHL or something like that. Now they're getting into being the distributor now. So they might overtake some of these. They're getting into this one-stop shop thing, and that seems like the opportunity that I'm talking about. Like when companies are failing, allows other companies with a market to expand their market, going into another industry or going into another part of that same market. Just like the contractors are doing with getting into developing. So yeah, I think it's an interesting time now for business, because there's a lack of money now. No one's spending any money at the top. Companies have to find new ways of making money, like to evolve. And I think that one-stop shop sort of business model is that thing that's coming up now.
I mean, I can only assume. I mean, I won't be around in the next 100 years or so, but I can only assume that the business model that our parents and so forth grew up will be different in the next 50, 100 years. Yeah. The brick and mortar buildings, for instance, that we know we just go into a shop and blah blah blah, will slowly go as the likes of AI, or automation and all that start becoming the norm, and that's huge. That is huge. And a lot of the businesses that we know, including yourselves, will also be in line to go as well. A lot. It's happening now. I read a few days ago, Amazon, for instance, Google, overseas, thousands of workers let go, thousands, because they are bringing in AI to do certain workers' jobs. And it's only a start with a lot of other occupations that will see AI take over. And that's worrying. It is worrying, when your kids, for instance, when they grow older, what will they do in the future, as a job? Because what you're doing now, they will not be able to do in the future, The likes you're seeing, or these data centers that you're seeing now, that's huge as well. That's going to have massive impact, not only in job-wise, but also environmental-wise as well. So in the next 10, 20, 50 plus years, everything that we've known growing up will be completely different. Completely different.
AI is a conversation that we've been having at work. And right now, AI for us at work is a tool. We starting to use it as a tool, and it's really effective if you know how to use it. You put in the prompts, and that doesn't give you exactly what you want, but if you work around it and use other software, you can mold it into what you want to see. But AI definitely helps, and it's a push of a button, a push of a button, and a day's work turns into 1 second.
But that's how we are supposed to think. Such a technology is supposed to be. That it's supposed to benefit us in a way that all we need to do is control it by pushing it. We have the control. But a lot of that sort of technology, as it becomes more aware, as it starts able to think for itself and to make its own ideas, and it's a scary thought when you think of movies like Terminator and stuff like that, where could this be a reality in the future, where such technology can actually have an impact on people's lives? Like I said, I can only sort of speculate that it will probably be. I mean, in a lot of businesses, Cam, will take advantage of this. They don't care about the human side of it. All they care about the profit side of AI, manufacturing jobs, data entry jobs here. A lot of work a lot of jobs that only require, pushing buttons and stuff like that. They will go. Simply to save money or to make money for a lot of these businesses. So, especially
if you're a capitalist country, they don't care about the human.
Yep.
If they can make money, profit over every little thing you can do. If they could take away labor, that's the first thing to go.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but that's something that every government in the world now has to grapple with. They have to grapple with something like that. That a lot of their population may not be able to find work. That's a concerning. It's a huge concern.
It's a huge concern for China, and I read that they have ideas on how to combat it, because we know AI is developing every day. Americans are trying to develop AI to the point where, like you said, might be a Terminator in the next few years. But because China's a socialist country, they depend on their people, on humans to, as a social country, they depend on humans a lot. So I read that they are actively trying to put the human factor into AI when they're developing their AI, because they don't want to get rid of the human factor. They understand that AI could take away a lot of jobs, and what are you going to do with 1 million people who have nothing to do?
I mean, I get it. I mean, you have to see the inventions of robots, for instance.
Yes.
Or you see the inventions of, futuristic houses, for instance. Where you press a button, literally anything in the house. Cars and all that. So I get it. But the government in China basically, and they want to put in a human factor into the technology, simply to try and ease the anxiety of its own population.
That's a responsible sort of thinking, I reckon.
To some degree, but you're not fooling anybody. You can put a face in a robot of one of a citizen that looks like a person, but in the end, it's still take off the face mask. It's basically bolts and wires and stuff like that. So it ain't going to change anything. But then again, that's a lot of those people will be accepting in the future, because they'll see it as part of their life.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I can see AI taking over my job. I can see it. It's starting to happen, and the solutions you hear around the world, like, we hear about universal income. Yep. I see. Who's that new party that's having momentum?
Opportunity.
They're talking about.
Yep. But that
universal income. But do you reckon that how are you going to pay for that? That's
but that's the same as welfare.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically universal income is basically a replacement of social welfare. That's basically it. You take away social welfare, replace that with universal, but still it's still not much.
No.
What they're offering is something like $300 or something, a week or whatever. But that idea has been floating around for a long, long time, and it's not new. It's only new because this party now wants to push it because they haven't been around that long. So it's not new.
Well, it seems to be like, social welfare on steroids.
Yeah,
because
to some people,
if you like, there's problems with there's problems with social welfare too. Like, what is the price of you on the line where you either stay home and do nothing and get paid, or you actually forces you to get something, to do something, to move up or get more pay or get a job, or there has to be, and I don't think they have it at that correct amount.
It's not.
It's too much to be easy to stay home and do nothing, and it's too little to not think about. How do I say that? It doesn't work.
If it was enough, you wouldn't see people with cardboard, writing on cardboard, standing in front of in the middle of intersections. That's it. It's as simple as that. Last year, I was unemployed for a period of time. Well, not unemployed, but I had to join WINS because I was made redundant at one of my main job. So I was unemployed for a little bit. I still had some casual work, but it wasn't enough to survive on. And that was an experience going through a WIN system. It was a lot of hurdles. For someone who's paid into the system since the age of 13, that you still basically have to beg, so that was an experience and a half.
Would you say it's a demoralizing experience?
Yeah, it was to some extent. I mean, I was looking around. This is a Henderson WINS office. I was looking around, people that were there, and I was actually quite surprised. I expected, and a lot of Islanders and Maori, but it was also Indians and Asians, Africans. So there's excuse me. There's a lot of diverse people that certainly needed help. So, yeah.
So yeah, that's never gonna go away. That's gonna be an issue until, I don't know. I don't think any government is brave enough to change anything.
The right-wing governments would. They would. If ACT ever became the main party rather than national, they would push their agenda. They would.
Well, because right now they trying to take the homeless off the streets.
Yeah.
And there's issues with that too.
They can't. Well, I mean, you can't take the homeless off the street. They're more or less moving on from one place to another. That's it. So mainly, you move 50 meters. That's basically what the law. If you don't, you might end up going to spend some time in jail or $1,000 fine. Where the hell are those people going to find $1,000?
So your own campaign, like as an independent, like do you have to go down every avenue of how to build a government in your own mind, in your own sort of place as an independent? Like,
yeah.
Like say you win and you're going to be the prime minister.
Yeah.
Like you have to have all this written out, or everything, the social side of things, crime and punishment, everything.
Everything is there. Everything is there to set how a country should be run, how things should be done. Everything's there. The only difference is that I won't necessarily be following more of a right wing track. because I'm a believer in people. It's all about people for me. Without people, then you wouldn't have the successful companies that are making profits for themselves. Simple as that. If you don't look after people, workers, whatever, your company or these companies will not be successful. So that's always been my belief. So if I was ever in a position of becoming a prime minister, everything is set in stone that's already in there. It's just a matter of what I feel the country needs in terms of how every policy or legislation will benefit people. So, I mean, with this current coalition, it's all about business. It's all about business. And you're seeing a lot of legislation now going through state education, for instance, and also other legislation concerning the Holidays Act, for instance. I work my jobs are casual. Combined, it's about maybe 36 or so hours. But the current legislation that this coalition is pushing through is that they want to give me less holidays, less sick days, because they think that we don't need it as a part-timers. So that will work against me if that policy goes through.
Mm. So all these, so that's one reaction to what's going on.
Yeah.
You must have a lot of reaction to any other policies that are out there.
Well, give me a topic.
So what's the most? So how would you handle the cost of living?
Many people have said get rid of the GST. That's one option. But I would actually go a lot harder. If you really want to really make a dent in the cost of living, take supermarkets, for instance. I would go a lot harder and actually legislate against certain things that this duopoly are doing at the moment to gain their own duopoly in the current system that we have. I will legislate against not having deals with with suppliers, because Woolworths and foodstuffs, for instance, they have deals with suppliers that they can't supply anyone else. They can't. That's the problem. I will also split what they're going through now. You remember telecom? Yeah. I would also go down that path and split the wholesale side of say, foodstuffs. And also, so it'll be a separate company, say, wholesales, and they can have the stores where they're selling side. Again, it'll be separate. But also have separate franchises, like Foursquare would be different, separate. New World, separate, I can say be separate. So they can all have different identity rather than all combined as a corporate, as a cooperative. So that's what I would go down that path. Once upon a time, in case whether you remember, we had multiple supermarkets here. We had Food Town, Big Fresh.
Free Guys?
Yeah, I worked in Free Guys when I was 13.
Oh, yeah.
This is up in Glen Eden.
There's one in Emmerdale.
I remember that too. I worked there a little while in Glendine, when he was there for a little while. So that's what I would do as a government, is to split the likes of the duopoly, what they did with telecom, and go high and legislate. Land banking, in case you don't know what that is another issue that I have, where these companies, like take foodstuffs, for instance, they would pay for a certain amount of land, a decent sized land in a certain place. The only reason why they do that is that to stop the opposition from acquiring that land, so that the opposition can't build any future building in that land. But say Foodstuffs will hold on to that land, and as they hold on to it for a certain amount of time, that land increases in value. But they did it deliberately, so they don't want to give the opposition any chance of land to build their own stores. And you've got a lot of land that happening at the moment that the likes of Foodstuffs have bought a land bank to stop any particular opposition from building any stores. That's another thing that I would do.
That's interesting, because you talked about how to break up that duopoly, like that's a good idea. The government can have the power to come in and say, look, you've got all these separate companies under you. We're gonna break it, and we're gonna privatize this franchise and have a different CEO or different, and that way, because of the land banking, what you're effectively doing is breaking away their lands as well. And that's a good way of doing it, because I always thought that it would be hard for a third player or a fourth player to come into New Zealand and start a shop, because where are they going to go? Because Progressive and Foodstuff have land everywhere.
They've already done that. The likes of Audi have been mentioned for the last few years. Audi have been here for a few years. They have office here in a few years, for a little while. They've done that. They've done a study in looking around whether it's worth it for them to come in. We don't have the population. Simple as that.
No.
Because if they were going to come in, they will only attract maybe, 3%? It might sound a lot, but, they need to build multiple stores across multiple places around the country. But again, they have to fight this. It requires a lot of law changes to get rid of these huge walls that the likes of Foodstuffs and Wolves have put in any outside or any third player to stop them from coming on board. I mean, take the warehouse, for instance. You would think the warehouse will, get into the grocery market quite easy because of its locations and its size. And it's not hard to transform any of those places, warehouses, into a supermarket, because the infrastructure is already there. But the problem with what Warehouse found was the same problem as any overseas player like Audi came here. They couldn't get access to suppliers because they were locked into the duopoly. They couldn't get the lands that they required, but again, that was bought out by these companies. And don't be surprised, Cameron, if the likes of Foodstuffs has shares in the likes of Warehouse. Because there will be one day where the Warehouse will probably decide to get out of the market where they're selling, because they are struggling. There's a lot of other places that are selling what the Warehouse is selling. So there may come a time where they will say, well, enough it, we want to sell out, and who knows, the Foodstuffs will jump into those locations and so forth. Take the likes of RSAs, for instance, another wonderful locations where these places are, and they are struggling. All of them are struggling around the country. And again, who knows what the likes of Foodstuffs might be hovering behind the scenes, waiting to see whether, come into RSA board and say, I hear you're struggling, we can ease your burden, we'll give you a certain amount of money if we can turn RSA into a supermarket, where is it? Point Ship, it's a classic example.
That's right, yeah. The New World that's gone there. Yeah. I guess for a company like Costco, that's a better model, because they bring all this stuff from America.
It's a different model.
There's a different model, and they're only like a one place in one city type stuff, eh? Like, I think they got one Costco in every wherever country they're in, they're just one place in one city. I know they're going to build one in South Auckland, end of the year.
The problem with that, with the likes of Costco, they can't build to scale in terms of, you don't find a lot of Costco. As you said, one out west, one out south. South Island are screaming for one. So it's going to be sort of sporadic.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they can't compete with the duopoly at the moment. There was a worry when that Costco up in Westgate went on that local stores, supermarket stores, would struggle because of that. No, they didn't. If anything, it improved their, the supermarkets improved their bottom lines. The model that Costco has is different than your typical supermarkets.
Well, what is done out there in Westgate, the prices at their Woolworths in the mall and the prices at Pack and Save out there, they're lower than the prices of those same stores in Henderson and anywhere else. Have you noticed that? And that's why, man, we try to go to Pack and Save at Westgate because it's cheaper. Because that's what Costco's done in the area. So that's the evidence that this is true. Like if you get an independent company in that have access to suppliers, because that's
But you also got to remember there are a lot of independent outlets as well. Say take some Asian stores, for instance. They're quite decent size. But you also got these little niche supermarkets. Faro, for instance, as well. So there are little bits of these little independent stores. They must be doing well because they're still there. They're still trading.
Asian stores like Taiping.
Yeah.
And you can get your barbecue pork there too.
But you also got, the likes of farmers markets and stuff like that. They are flourishing. Night markets and all these other little places, they're flourishing. The flea market in Avondale, up in South Auckland, all those flea markets up in Manurewa, Otara, they're flourishing, because those are little alternative places where you can go and buy, your veggies and stuff like that, rather than supermarkets. It's better there than in supermarkets, to be honest.
The breaking up of these monopolies because the land's already there is a really good idea. Why do you think the government are not doing that?
Because they would be knocking on their door. They'll be lobbying. Like any of these big corporations, they'll be knocking on. Mr. Luxon, can we have a word with you? I hear you're looking at putting through a certain legislation that may affect our bottom line or whatever. So here's $100,000 or here's $200,000 for your campaign. That's it. That's all it is. It's lobbying. It's what you're seeing in America at the moment. Massive, funding money from corporations, from wealthy individuals. They're funding parties. ACT, national, millions of dollars. They are biggest donors. ACT. At the moment, and you look at the people that are funding, they all have their own agenda. They have businesses that are tied up to certain legislations that are going through the House that they want change, so they make it easier for them to get in. Classic example is the oil industry. They want the land, a certain land and certain resources, but they can't do that because of the indigenous rights or security issues that are in those legislations. They can't do that. So they go through ACT to see whether they can do, whether they can, change it or get rid of it or repeal it. That's what's happening at the moment.
Is it a struggle to think about all spectrums of New Zealand society when it comes to cost of living? Because I guess it's like on the upper end, you got people who are well off that probably complain that their lifestyle has to change compared to people on the other side of the spectrum, the poor people that every day is a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, you that's human nature. Throughout human nature, there always be people that own more, acquire more, or took more. In some cases, they took from other people So there'll always be those that will have more than what they need, and that's just a fact of life. The problem I have is how they've attained it. You take Musk, for instance. He doesn't have an income per se. Everything that he supposedly owns is goes through his businesses. He's supposed to be the richest man, but you can't tax him because there's nothing. Basically, he doesn't have an income. But he would have got those that paper money through a lot of the contracts that the government has given them. So the governments, including ours, had made given a lot of businesses good deals in terms of lending rates and stuff like that, so that they can invest in the country. So compared to, say, China, for instance. China, I believe, businesses don't have interest rates or low interest rates. That's why they're able to pay their workers their low wages. You can't do that in places like New Zealand. So we have a problem in government policy where current and past governments have not hardened their resolve against business influence. And we're going to have that problem until a future government say enough is enough. We're going to legislate to change things and make it more equitable for people on a lower scale of things, if it means increasing their money, wages. I'm also a believer. I wanted to push what say Australia has, where you're tax free for the first I think it's 20 grand, something like that. I'm looking at also being in favour of doing that, maybe 18 grand or 20 grand tax free. That will ease that burden of anyone, especially on a low income of about less than 50 grand a year, something like that. So,
yeah, it's, I was thinking about how, for me anyway, like looking at some of these policies when it comes to the cost of living, and looking at my situation at work where we're going through this redundancy thing, restructuring, like who and elections going to come at the right time, right? Because it's gonna, whoever you vote for will affect things, right? Or maybe perceive you to affect things. Like for my job, having these corporate clients that rely on overseas investment, it makes sense for me to vote for a party that helps business and helps the corporate sector. And so that means, vote for National. Vote for National. At the same time, it's the cost of living stuff. And when I look at the Labour policy of making public transportation cheaper, the $20 a week, because I catch public transport because I work in the city, so there's no parking there. Parking's expensive, so the best way to work in town is to catch public transport, right? And that's what I do. And at the moment, it's $50 a week. Putting it down to $20 a week, man, that appeals to me, right? But it won't appeal to me if I don't have a job, right? And since my job relies on the corporate sector, it makes sense for me to help by voting National. But I've never been a National supporter all my life. Like, I've probably voted for them once in my whole life, and that was because they said something that didn't happen. And that's the typical, they make all these promises, and when they get in, they say, "Oh, no, we'll backtrack on that because you can't do it." Yeah. So you got my vote over a lie. And that's probably what happened. I've always been like a Labour supporter, but when you get older and you have a family and maybe you think about being an entrepreneur, starting a business, then your voting changes a bit. You go from left to centre right. But me, at the moment I'm back in the centre, so I usually vote left, right, think about it. So I'm not really a loyal, stay in one place. So that's an interesting dynamic for me when it comes to elections this year. You got any thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm the reason why I go as an independent, Cameron, is simply if I'm lucky enough to get in as an electric MP, I want to be able to negotiate if a government wants to negotiate with me, but I'll basically sitting in the background, supply and to offer my vote for any policy that I think that will benefit the people that I know would benefit. I'm also a believer that businesses should be allowed to grow and we to help them in any way invest, whether it be here or overseas or whatever. I do believe that. But I'm also a believer there has to be a balance. No business can succeed without its workers. And no business can succeed without looking after investing in their in the well-being of its workers. So there has to be a balance. It's one thing that a business says, well, we want to expand and so forth, but by doing that, well, what are you going to do? You're going to cut staff, or if we want to make a little bit more money. So the first thing they do is cutting people. That's the nature of business. Or we're going to go overseas because the labor is cheaper in India or Philippines and stuff like that. Stuff few people. That's it. That's the nature of how businesses work. So it has to be a balance. The wages here are low, as you probably already know. We live in a low wage economy, and it doesn't help when you have free trade here, a deal with the likes of India, where it's about 5,000 people supposedly allowed to come here every year, and what are they going to do? That they're supposed to be high skilled people, but so a lot of high skilled people are driving Ubers, working in supermarkets or Pizza Hut, or a lot of high skilled people, cleaners, doctors. So that's the problem that I have with business. It's all about trying to have a balance and trying to look after its own workforce, without thinking that they need to make more money and then literally not looking after its workforce.
Because you mentioned immigration, and one thing to bring up a country's GDP is to get more people in there, get more people in for jobs and spending money. The supply and demand, right? So if there's more people, more chances to buy stuff, you need companies to supply for the new population. But what are your thoughts around that? Because it seems like, New Zealand as a country struggles to get people in. You always hear about people moving to Australia, where the economy is much bigger. They got resources out in Western Australia that, help with the whole country. We don't have that type of resource that Australia has. Yeah, but people are leaving, people are coming in. We always going to have this problem, or do we need to, I think you mentioned earlier on the podcast about how New Zealand government can help, but they don't. With supporting local companies. How do we... It seems like what I'm trying to say is, it seems like to me, to solve some of these problems is to get more people in. We are, but are we getting the wrong people in? Are we just getting just anyone? Is increasing the population, does that help?
And all of the countries are going through that at the moment, going through a influx of immigration. And that's what most countries are going through right now. When a government asks, if we're going to accept people from other countries, then we want the smart ones. My problem with that is that, well, if that's the case, who are going to do the dirty jobs? The fruit picking, the cleaning, those sorts of jobs. Who are going to do that? We, as you know,
but the people in welfare don't want to do that job.
But that's the problem. This is why we import. We get people from overseas. It's either that or we be tough on the welfare and say, you don't do this, we cut your benefit altogether. We're giving you enough warnings. But the government won't be tough like that because they don't want to be seen as being mean and stuff like that. But this has always been a problem that successive governments have gone through and now going through more because of our birth rate. Not enough people being born. I believe it was 10 years ago. I believe it was about maybe seven people, tax-paying people to every pensioner. Now I believe it's two working person to every pensioner is supporting paying tax to pay things like pension, and that's a worry. I can understand the birth rate thing because it's bloody dear to raise kids. Bloody dear to have kids. I don't have kids, as I said to you last time I saw you, simply because it's too expensive. I come from a family of 7, Cameron, and I saw how hard it was watching my parents, and I said, bugger that. I have siblings who have kids, and that's fine, that's their buzz. But I wasn't going, if I was going to have a decent life, I wasn't going to have all these other stresses to make just because I had to follow everybody else. So that was a decision I made a long, long time ago. And this is a problem that all countries are having at the moment is low birth rate. Hence the trade deal with India. And I believe a few days ago, the government are now looking at negotiating with at least another 7 countries for another free trade as well. And they need to. With what's happening in America, I now believe that we need to get away from being a partner or an ally of the likes of America while Trump is there. Because you can't be a good player in an international country when your main country like America is just going bonkers. So all the countries around the world need to start looking at trading more with themselves. Same as the UK. They need to start standing up for themselves and start realizing that they can't rely on America while Trump is there at the moment.
Remember, UK was a big company for us, a big help, big customer to us for our exports back in the 80s, 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Like they bought all our meat. So that's why you had the freezing works and all. And like that was a good time for New Zealand. Like the economy was strong then. And I remember my parents, like, because my dad worked for telecom in those days. He worked at FL6 before that. Yeah,
and name old, yeah.
But man, that was a good time for the economy in New Zealand, like until UK stopped buying our meat, and then we had to find new ways of to export and that.
Part of the freight free, the trade free deal with India, it's missing a lot of other things as well. Dairy, for instance, and because we can't get in. India doesn't want to rock the boat in their own dairy industry in their country, which is fair enough. We never got everything that we needed, we wanted, and it's like every country. They will protect their own industries rather than selling it out to other countries. And it's no different to our country. We would rather save certain industries that we have. But having said that, we've also now opened up a lot of opportunities for other countries to actually learn from us. Take farming, for instance. Who would have thought that, once upon a time where we farmed because that was us. But now, China, for instance, has learned how to farm the way that we farm because they brought people here a few years ago to study our methods. Take baby powder, for instance. Once upon a time, we have the monopoly and really good quality baby powder, but not anymore because you had people from the likes of China come here, learn the process, go there, and and again, because it's cheap labor there, they're obviously selling a lot cheaper. So we sometimes bite our nose as part of our faces sometimes, because we think that it's a good deal that we go overseas and build places overseas thinking that it's going to be good for the country, but not so much. When that's part of the thing about what China does well than a lot of other countries. They learn everything. They want to learn everything. They don't want to rely on other countries to supply them. Say, look at what's happening with Iran at the moment. They understood because of the last Ukraine war, when it started, they understood that they needed to have another source of fuel as well. So they planned ahead after that because they learned from that, because of any future wars that would affect their energy supply. We didn't learn from that. We were supposed to, but we didn't learn from that, and now we're just playing catch up.
So what we got? We got milk, we got dairy, we got wool. I have no idea how those exports are working. We got meat, but all I know is that wine,
we got apples and things like
we
kiwi
got Sauvignon Blanc down in the south.
They're all good brands. They're all very, but again, it's a competitive market in those industries across the world. So I mean, we don't have a big enough market in say America, for instance, because it's heavily looked after by the government. A lot of industries here, soybean, classic example.
Well, Trump raised our tariffs to 12%, 12.5% as well.
Yep.
Because excuse was something that didn't.
But again, I don't understand. I don't understand the reaction. Same as Australia. I don't understand where our government has not sort of had enough. Say, be like Spain. It's a Spain woman prime minister. Said to Trump, piss off. But I don't understand. But Luxon sort of likes Trump. So as long as he's leader here, we were never going to toughen our own resolve against the likes of Trump. And that's what we need to. We need to say, no, okay, cool. We won't trade with you. Because I don't know how much we trade with America, but it can't be that much if we. So, but at the end of the day, it's like, why would we want to continue trading with a country that keep putting on tariffs? And tariffs, as we know, do not work. But this is the problem. We've allowed America, the likes of Donald Trump, dictate how the global economy. We are suffering because of that idiot doing what he's doing. We have allowed that, when we're supposed to actually, as sovereign countries, to stand up and say, no, we're not gonna do that. But this is the problem when you follow a country like America, thinking that they will never be the way that they are. Well, here we are. So we either maintain the status quo or start being grown-ups and say, okay, cool. We're now going to trade more with China. Because that's what China actually waiting. They don't need to invade anybody. They'll just wait patiently until we see what's happening out in international way of things, and then wait until all countries will come knocking on their door. No.
That's one of the reasons why China is like one of the biggest economies in the world now. Their interest in the Pacific Islanders, for instance, that's a contentious one.
But is it? Is it okay?
I mean, it doesn't really help the locals in the islands, like in terms of like business. I know in Samoa, there's all these $2 shops opened up. Like Chinese are there, open up all these $2 shops. The construction in Samoa is killing all the local construction companies. Who do we blame for that though? The government.
Yeah,
the government.
The actual government. But you got to ask the question: what are they getting for? What are they getting for? Is it
I'm sure they got some back pocket deals.
But that's the other thing. We don't. The people. But then I'm always. This is the thing that really angers me about island politics, especially islanders themselves. They like to talk, complain, and so forth. But they won't stand up for themselves and actually stand up against their leaders. We have this thing, if your leader, you respect and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But if your leader is robbing you blind, are you still going to, yes, sir, instead of, where's my money? That sort of thing. This is our problem with our people. I was just reading the other day, and all the Pacific countries are now wanting to put an embassy in Israel, Jerusalem in particular, Jerusalem. And I was thinking, well, what merit is that? Why would you want to do that? And then I was reading an article from, I think it was, Nauru, one of those Samoan countries. And the reason why they're building there is because for religious reasons. And I get that. All, as you know, all islanders are religious. Samoa was in the process of looking at putting a embassy in Jerusalem. And I was wondering, have you people got no eyes? Have you not seen what's happening in Gaza? Have you not seen what the Israeli government is doing in Iran? Have you not? So this is what I couldn't understand.
I don't know that. Why are they doing that? It seems like too far away for our interest.
You think so?
And you think people don't care.
But again, you don't know what Israel has offered them. Israel is not a poor country. It's quite wealthy. Like China coming into the South Pacific Sea, they don't come with a simple, hi, how are you? We want to be neighbors. It's always money. It's money. Look at Tonga, for instance. Now they in debt to China because they couldn't follow through whatever contracts that they had. This is a sovereign country, monarchy in Tonga, and yet they owe money basically to China.
Yeah, just like every other island, Pacific Island nation,
that's it.
like that,
and that's it.
With China's there, like I can't imagine how much money they owe China. Like
but this is also the other problem. This is also the other problem. Also, because New Zealand and Australia has taken their foot off the pedal when it comes to looking after the islanders. Yeah, and I get it. They've been the islanders' main aid giver and so forth. But I also probably taking that position a little for granted. And the islanders now are thinking, well, bugger you haven't done much for us, so we'll give these other new guys China a go. And now China said, yeah, of course, we'll give you whatever you want.
Well, that's what the Cook Islands threatened last year, remember?
Try to leverage that way. Leverage, but then again, how can you? What much do you offer? The only thing that the islands have in terms that we are scared of in the likes of Australia is accessibility to the likes of China, where it's where they are. If they get a foothold on these islands, that means they have places where they can launch planes and stuff like that. That's the only reason why the likes of us in America, for instance, are afraid. If China get a foothold in these our islands, that they can build little bases. So as you know, that there are a lot of little atolls that they are building man-made little little army bases that they're doing all across the Pacific. It's no different to what they could do with a lot of things in the islands. You build there simply because they offer the island governments money.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Infrastructure is the biggest one that China offers to help. They pour money into infrastructure to get a little bit of influence. I wonder if, because Australia just recently gave the Pacific Islanders, especially Tonga, Fiji, and Samoa, was it $50 million for sport to try and bring up their rugby unions, promote rugby league? $50 million, and I think. Do you think that's just another way they thought they could give money? Like, because they can't go through infrastructure now because China's sort of, sewed that up. There has to be in other ways.
It's probably a cynical ploy, though, Cam. I mean, I've never. I mean, as someone who used to play rugby, I'm not someone who follows like yourself, who follows a lot of these sporting codes. But I have never quite understood why the island governments are fixated on things like sport. If the local population, especially young men there, want to pursue something, go overseas. Pursue overseas. Make your money overseas. What's the point of playing for your national side when you get paid baka or nothing at all, to be honest? No? If the likes of our country and so forth, we're going to give aid to these to the Pacific Islanders, it should be for infrastructure only. That's it. It should be for building buildings for the public and so forth. But one of the other problems that I have with that is how long until climate change has an effect on these islands? How long? How much more do us taxpayers, because that's where the money's coming from, how much more are we prepared to pay money to these islands, where in case of the likes of Mauritius, for instance, it's going to be underwater within a matter of 50 or so years. Be the same as Niue, all these other islands. It's slowly sinking. It's slowly sinking. So how long do we have to spend when we know full well that eventually the sea will take these islands? And that's the other thing. Also, the population of those islands, they need to start really seriously think, what are they going to do for their futures? They can't stay there, forever. They can't. And there we have another problem where who's going to take the people from those islands? Future governments here will say, well, are we going to take him because they supposedly our neighbors? So we have a, history with Samoa. No future government is going to say, we too many people. Because we can have a lot of people here in the future. So we have a population now is about just over 5 million. They said in about next 30 or so years, it'll be up 7 million. 7.
See, that's still not enough. Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
For 20 years. But, compared to, other countries,
The problem is, again, we go back to in the infrastructure, houses and roads and stuff like that. And, but again, I have this, I'm an anti-road person. Mm. I've never understood why rail was not built many, many years ago. Again, successive governments and councils have not listened, have not looked ahead and to see that they needed all these things.
Well, I can tell you why, because it was private. It was privatized back then. So it was incentive for a company to, the buses were privatized back then. So it was incentive for them to no trains because we need the buses to. Well,
not only that, make money and you're right. And in terms of the likes of roading, transport, trucking firms like Mainfreight, for instance, heavily donated to National, for instance, heavily. And the millionaire of Mainfreight, he wants to maintain that status quo, the monopoly in roading for his trucks. Mm-hmm. And I get it. Hence the, no trains for heavy cargo and stuff like that. So And until we break that cycle and say no, we still going to have more roads. National is a party of roads, you know.
Forever, they're always
well, that's it.
roads.
And I can never understand why. You know, we got so many problems, with existing maintenance of roads and stuff like that. Why would we want to keep building roads? You know, well, we now looking at another possible harbour bridge crossing. You know, and again, that was something that they should have done a long, long time ago, or a tunnel. You know, the mayor. Wayne Brown is not a fan of a tunnel, but again, that could be a possibility in the future.
The new CRL that's about to open, I guess that's a good start. I mean, to move people around the city. I mean, they've already made it hard to park in the city. I remember 10 years ago, especially during COVID, even before COVID, the city was dying. No one was going there. You had all these, you had businesses going out to the suburbs because there's a lot more parking and better access. It was kind of hard to get to the city, and even through COVID, like after COVID, no one was going there. You had neglected a lot of Queen Street, especially the middle of Queen Street. All these businesses were going under. Even in the early 2000s or late 2000s, if you go walk up and down Queen Street, a lot of Chinese stores and $2 stores, you know. So there was a big incentive to get people back in the city, but how would you do that? Because that back then it was too hard because no one was going into the city. With this new CRL going on, like, that helps, but I think also because you needed a lot of people to live in the city too, to move around.
Students.
And you need students, and you need businesses to go back to the city too. And I think even though it was hard for people to take the car in there, like it was the best thing for public transport.
We you probably still old enough to remember. We grew up at a time where going to the city was the ultimate.
It was the best.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Even in the 90s,
Christmas, Rendles and farmers, all that. It was a highlight of a lot of families going into that. I only go to the city now just because I travel there because of the nature of my job, just for in and out, more or less, of certain places. Because I don't have the patience in the city. I used to work in the city myself a few years ago, and that's changed. But the city, the CBD, Auckland City itself, is not. It's not family friendly. It's basically a commercialized zone where basically it's businesses, students, and so forth. But the other problem is, with what we learned from COVID, Cam, is that a lot of those businesses, people don't need to be there. They can work from home. This is the other problem that needs we need a conversation. If you don't need to work in the city in the offices, and you can do a lot of your work at home through internet or whatever, what's the point in having all those empty spaces? What's the point? So you can eliminate two things. One thing, by less people going and working in the city, it means you have less traffic, less cars, less pollution. There will come a time where the city CBD will be carless, other than emergency vehicles and courier vans and so forth. That's it. So it's not a family friendly as such. The events that they have there, like America's Cup, may not be as often because again it's expensive to hold things like that. In all those places, restaurants and through the viaduct, they're not cheap. and not bloody cheap. You know? And when you go to the CBD, parking itself, before you know, you spend a decent amount before you even get out of the car. So, and that's a part and parcel of the problem of the likes of city, where you have to, take a family out. It's quite expensive.
We had a project in Penrose. It was a 5-story office building, and it was ready to go, and then COVID happened, and then it still didn't go, and we found out after COVID that it wasn't going to go ahead. And the reason why is because of what you said. Like, the office spaces were going down. Like, everyone was working from home. Offices, businesses were cutting their office space in half.
The rents are high.
Rents are high too. But even after COVID, because, the Zoom call exploded. If you had shares in Zoom, you would have made a lot of money through COVID if you put shares in before that. So, half their office space didn't need to work from office anymore, from home, just like you said. I know with our work, we spend a lot of money on traveling to meetings, or people come over to, have a meeting in the office. Now with Zoom, you don't need all that. So we save a lot of money with transport, going to meetings, and you can be in the work.
Should tell that to the government ministers who travel overseas to all these Shane Jones and stuff like that.
Well, that's right.
A lot of those you don't need to go overseas. Zoom, whatever.
It's just the perks of the job.
Of course it is. You save money that way, save taxpayers. But if it's not your own money, you won't have to worry.
See, I remember the last time we talked, you were a big advocate for saving money.
Yep.
The expenditures are incredible.
Yep.
Right now, even now.
What I didn't tell you last time. And I'm doing it again today. If I'm lucky enough to get in this year, I will donate 40% of the salary, the MP salary that I will get if I'm lucky enough to get in, Cam. 40%. The first term MP will get paid something like 180 a year. Yeah. I'm only living in something like about 50 grand a year. That's what I'm living in, and that's my way of giving back to people. Giving about at least 40% to a charity, to say Kids Can and something like that. I may even give more. If I stand again, if I'm lucky enough to get in this time, and I stand again a second time, I'll give maybe 60%. That's how I want to do it. Because in the end of the day, it's your money. It's a people's money. I don't need that amount of money to survive, because I'm only surviving, way less than what I'm earning now. And so that's my way of doing my part of saving the taxpayers' money.
How would you? Because we were talking about what would you do if you become Prime Minister? How would you handle education? And what's the problems we face now with education?
The problem we have with education, I don't know if you remember, I went to become a teacher. I think it was 2005 from memory. Epsom campus. I went there. People keep telling me, you make a good teacher, blah, blah. So I went. And that time, it was about 300 about 300 people, and when I went, 10 were men, only 10 were men. I only lasted not even a semester, a month, but I ended up paying 10,000. I realized that that vocation wasn't me. I wasn't keen on the planning side of teaching, planning 3 months in advance, and I had no patience for that. But it was an interesting little venture, and I could understand how women go into education because they have more patience, but also because there's a stigma on men in that sector. I get it. But when I went there at that time, I had to learn not only the old curriculum, but also a new curriculum that was coming up. So it was a lot of hard work in trying to learn all these things. And so I thought, it just wasn't for me. The problem with our education system is that we keep thinking that something else is better. The system that the National Party is bringing in our overseas system. It's an American base, where a lot of the textbooks and classroom sessions are basically based on work from overseas, American, and not based on New Zealand. We have companies here that offer these sort of resources in for our education department, but they decided to neglect them and go overseas. Why? Privatization, I would say. Because they sort of softening us to privatize elements of government sectors like education. Especially if they get another term in government, Cam, or win future elections.
This is why there's sort of like an increase in, or campaign to increase the amount of charter schools we got in this country. And that's sort of like just a private school, huh?
Yeah. The difference is, though, that you don't need to be a qualified teacher to be a teacher in those schools. Anybody can rock up to a charter school and apply to be a teacher. That's the difference with a charter school. The other thing also is what's the point of having an outside who will run the school, but yet you still accept government funding? You know what I mean? How fair is that? When the government gives funding to charter school, which is supposed to be a private run entity, but yet they won't give enough money to the public school to fix whatever they need to fix.
Is that the same sort of model as like a tertiary education, like the smaller ones?
The Unitechs and you talking
or even
about
the ones you got Unitech and AUT and Auckland University.
Yeah.
But then the ones under them, like not under them, but smaller ones than them.
Yeah.
Like anyone can go and then start a course, online course, or start an online course. Then you get some funding and start a physical.
Yep.
Buy an office space and do a course.
I mean, charter school has been a sort of a negative thing for the last 10 years. It's something that the National tried before for maybe 10 years. For whatever reason, they pulled it. It didn't work.
ACT Party's all in, really.
But that's a problem. But you also need to remember that, again, it's the donors behind that that are pushing that because they want to privatize the likes of education. It's huge. There's a lot of money involved in a sector like education. No different to, say, prisons. Or other government departments that you got outside companies that come in and do it for a price, and that's we need to be worried. Take health, for instance, hospitals. All you need is it's privatized, like what you're seeing in America at the moment. We're privatized insurance. It's not hard to go down that path if you got governments like the coalition pushing that in the future, especially if they become governments more by winning future elections.
How would you handle crime and punishment? I remember you had some views on crime.
The old me will be more of the stick. You know how the carrot and the stick. That was the old me. But because I was probably a little bit older, maybe a little bit wiser, I now sort of thought, well, it's easy to lock people away. The new law on the move along laws, for instance, can move anybody that are homeless or whatever, without actually looking at why they are homeless, why they're there, why have they decided to sleep in the streets. So the new me thinks we need to invest money into helping these people first and foremost, and not lock them away. Because the old, many years ago, I would have thought by just locking these people away, and you won't see them at all. Out of mind, out of sight. That's the old saying. But we now have to understand that if we don't help these people that have obviously addictions, mental health issues, or abuse, trauma, then those issues will escalate. Which means once it escalates, it means that they will become part of the system, whether it be the penal system or whether it be the health system, because they will need health care, because they'll have to go to hospital because they've injected something and so forth, or alcohol prevention, things like that. So we need funding to help those people by helping them deal with their own issues. Take Housing First policy that's rolled out in other countries. Now, I think this government is trying to implement is instead of locking up, not government, other charity services like LifeWise, I think, and Salvation Army. Instead of locking up people, they want to house people first. That's why it's called Housing First. House people first, get them in a place where they can give them a home first, and then you can throw wraparound service in helping their issues while they're in a safe place. So that's my way of trying to solve that issue. It's the same as what the Greens and the Te Pāti Māori and to some extent Labour wants to push through. Because if we don't look at from that point of view in helping these people house first and then work at dealing with their problems, if we allow that to fester, then it's going to be a burden on a lot of other services that we, the taxpayer, will pay. So that's the way that I look at it now.
I have a couple of issues with what you're saying, and one of them is I'm very frustrated at the government's solution to these. They seem not to attack it from the base, from the root. Like you were saying, they just don't seem to talk about the root problems and attacking it from there. They seem to always put a Band-Aid on the problem.
Yeah, it's always been a Band-Aid.
It's always been a Band-Aid. And I'm figuring why they give us that solution all the time. And they're the ones spend the money. They know how much money it costs to fight it at the root. And they'll rather Band-Aid it because it's cheaper and just let it happen. You
said the word. You said the magic word, cheaper.
Yeah.
Especially with conservative right-wing governments, they would rather look at these sort of social issues, and they are social issues, as saving money, because that's the easiest way of telling the public, oh, look at us, we're saving money by cutting funding or certain social, wraparound services and so forth. But yet they won't touch other sectors where they can save money, more money, but they'll touch these sort of social services because it's the easiest way for them to do it. That's the easiest way.
And for them, it's out of sight, out of mind. Because if you think about these people that live in these areas which are well off, and that the only time they see these social issues is on TV, is on the news. They don't see it in their own neighborhoods. But
you know the reason why that they implemented that move on laws? You know the reason why? It's because Luxon doesn't want tourists from America and so forth coming off wealthy tourists hopping off a cruise ship
and see that.
Yeah, That's or they don't want to be sort of, they gave a reasoning, I don't want them to be harassed or blah, blah, blah. But every country that these cruise ships go, every country has homeless. And those countries have more problem. You're not gonna rid of it simply by saying, we're gonna make it illegal for these people to do that. And police have come out recently. That's not a good law. How are we expected to do this when we can't, when we need to be doing our core roles, and we're wasting time doing when this should be done by mental health people, or those charities that do these sort of things, and that's the problem. But you probably also may or may not know, this government is tough on crime. That's their mantra. Tough on crime. Oh, look at us. We are tough on crime. The ram raids were tough on crime. What do you call those? When they send those young boys to boot camp. Yeah. Oh, look at us. We're being tough on these sort of hoodlums. But yet, take the boot camps, for instance. How long does that last? You haven't heard boo. About what's happening with that at the moment. There's a lot of money went in there, And how much is actual crime is actually down? How much is actually down? You can take statistics are easy to do. You take one statistics on one element of a criminal stat. And make it look like it's down, but the other criminal elements are up. In the end of the day, crime is crime. Doesn't matter whether it's rape or whether it's burglary or whether it's a home invasion or whether it's a murder. It's still crime. So all these politicians they can manipulate all these data and stats to make it look like that they are doing something. But when you read the paper, I read the paper a lot. All these criminal things that are happening, murders, assaults. Look at the rise of bullying that you see online. With schools, students in buses. On gang fights where they videotape and stuff like that. How are you going to fix that?
There's that crime. What about the health sector? What's your views on that? Because without punishing people, there are issues. There's issues with the amount of us going to doctors or not. The access was a big one that came on the news recently. But it's all wrapped up around the social aspects on it. Because I heard David Seymour talk about how the biggest news with ACT Party is they got that who's that? Their broadcaster, Paul Henry, become a member, and he was talking about making things equal. And I remember, this stuff about the Treaty of Waitangi, and why is it so controversial for ACT Party to talk about it and change things around? And they're tricky. They're really tricky.
It's their voter base.
It's a voter base, but it's tricky how they describe it, because they talk about equality. These are all like good things, right? Positive things. Like equality is good. It's having people on the same page, on the same level, like equality of whatever it is. But the problem with that is that this country is not equal. There's poor people, there's rich people. How is that equal?
It's never been equal.
It's never been equal. So you can't just this policy is a good policy. Changing the Treaty of Waitangi is a good policy because it makes everything equal. But, it's not equal. People, I don't know how people don't think that's the wrong thing to say.
I mean, what you hear from the likes of Seymour and ACT and this coalition is that Māori, and to a lesser extent Pasifika, are getting a fairer deal, are getting a better deal when it comes to things like health. That's what they do. But in case you probably has forgotten, statistics have come out for a long, long time saying that Maori and Pasifika are dying younger than the Pakeha and other ethnic groups. So at least 10 years, long time. So they are trying to find ways to fix that by, lowering the age of, say, prostate screening or other things to a lower age for Pacific people to go and actually check. And the likes of Seymour saying, well, why are you doing that? Why can't it be everybody? And I understand what he's saying, but he's conveniently forgetting it's because biologically we're a little bit different. But we also a case of living in our environments where we have no control in our environments. We work in different occupations that are physically demanding. A lot of us. We eat differently. Not only our traditional foods, but we also eat more of the not so good foods. But reasons for that is because of economics.
It's the cheapest food.
That's it.
Unhealthy food is the cheapest food.
As much as the likes of those people, we say, you need to eat healthier, you need to work harder to make more money. It doesn't happen. I've worked in the industry I'm currently working. I'm 60 next year, and I work in the industry I'm currently working here with the body's buggered. It's buggered. My knees are buggered. You push me over, Cam, I can't get up without trying to hold on to something. That's how buggered they are. Shoulders, elbows here are all hard. I got to massage them regularly. So I'm a living proof of someone who will struggle by the time I get to 65. And yet he has the audacity to say, Seymour, and say, well, there was your own choice. It wasn't so much of a choice. It was, at the end of the day, you had to do it.
And that is exactly where they're not coming from.
No.
When they say, it's a nice word, equal, but the fact is we're not equal.
But Paul Henry, we will bring back Paul Henry. I don't know if you want to speak to him about that. Listening to him when he spoke last week when he entered, and he was trying to sort of relive the days of the 1970s. I don't know if you remember seeing it, and he wants to emulate the 1970s vibe where he grew up, and he wants that era to be the era that his grandkids can grow up and feel good.
Well, that's a very conservative thing to say.
It is, but that's an easy way of solving an issue that no. Every era, generation's all different. And he lived in the same. He's about 5-6 years older than I am. We lived in a similar area. He came from a solo parent. His mother brought him up. And his mother, apparently, from what I understand, worked about 3 jobs. If there's not one person, and I say there's also the likes of Paula Bennett, likes of Luxon, Key and stuff. They came from that background, the solo background. The solo parent helped them as they grew up. So
even John Key, Key.
So in retrospect, you would think those people who grew up in that environment would have an understanding of how people struggle. Yeah? But they don't. Henry did not. Poor Henry is just he's forgotten how his mother worked hard, all those jobs to make him to be where he is. He's forgotten that during that period, he would have gone to university. It was free then. Yeah? Not now. He conveniently forgot that. There were things that occurred when we grew up in the 70s that do not happen here. So he completely conveniently forgets that. So it was a different time when we grew up to how he wants to bring back that time to emulate it in this time.
Because New Zealand is so polarizing on that economic scale, right? Probably not as bad as other countries, but we still have that scale. Do we need a leader that, and you touched on it, that knows both sides of that scale, like has lived it? Like, that's why probably Labour appeals to so much for us, because, you know, originally, like, for a long time, they're for the working class. But the working class now is not the working class in the 80s, working class in the 70s.
The working class that we understood was like the dock workers, the wharf workers, the manufacturing workers, where the unions in all those industries were strong. That was classed as the working class.
The working class now is, you can't afford class.
The working class now is spread out. It's basically spread out. You have an industry now where take home care, for instance, or caring for older people, predominantly women. Now that's regarded as a working class. Certain pay packet that you have every year, I think it's maybe, once upon a time was 50 grand, but now it's about 70. That's a so-called, working class, but that's a middle class. But then again, even that's small compared to how much you need to actually live now. I think you need about at least 120,000 a year to ever to be above water, to be honest. So working class is basically just anybody who struggles. Even people, families that both parents work, they're struggling. When you're paying half of your wage to rent, 600 plus whatever, what's the point?
These are like what the public's calling out for a long time. Do you see any silver lining in the future? For like cost of living and stuff like that. Like, would things be as good as they were in the 80s? No. Won't they?
No, it's different. Again, we grew up in that period. It's different. Do you know the mayor in New York, Mandani?
Yeah, he's controversial.
To some extent, but only controversial to the right wingers, to the Republicans. He, when he was elected, within 6 months,
he's a socialist. They're calling him socialist.
Socialist Democrat. That's what you can classify me if you want to go down titles. But within 6 months of his inauguration, you know what he's done? He's actually implemented most of what he campaigned on. And one of the things that he done was taxed all the wealthy people with certain wealth. It's landlords, taxed them.
That's right, yeah.
Huge.
I remember that.
People were angry, all these wealthy people, why are you doing it? He made it a priority for him to do that. And now, he's if they want him to become a president in the future, So those things can be done if you have the willpower. But not only that, Cam, but decent human beings would also feel, if I have money and I see a fellow human being struggling, I would also either offer some money or find a way of that person to attain money. Yeah, I won't say, no, your choice. What you did, you made your own choice to be where you are now. And that's a problem with the likes of conservative governments. And I use that word sort of lightly, conservative, because when you say conservative, it's mainly there's a religious connotation behind it. Luxon is a Christian, and so it's a lot of so National Party is a sort of a Christian-based political party. Having said that, a lot of their policies go against everything that Jesus would be teaching. Everything, love thy neighbor or so forth. Everything against what Jesus will be teaching. So I don't understand that either. Don't understand that.
That's good. That's a good example you put up. Zoran, is his name? Zoran?
Yeah, but it takes willpower. It takes willpower. And the thing, it takes guts, and this is the difference between me and the likes of politicians I'll come up against is that I have no interest in acquiring wealth. I have no interest in owning things. I don't want to own a house. My life is actually quite simple. Yeah, I'm in a time of my life now where I'm happy and content, but I also want to see what I can do to try and help people that I don't want to see the struggles that I went, the struggles that my parents went when we came here. Because it was a struggle. And a lot of other island families, a lot of families did the same thing. I'm a believer that the things that our grandparents and parents and uncles did, it's the fruition that we're going to see of all that labor that we did is in the new generation now. My nieces and nephews now are far, far smarter than we were. Far smarter. And they are heading to be more economically literate. They will find jobs that will pay more, that will excel and exceed what we ever earned in the past. Why? It's because I hope that they saw the struggles of their parents and their aunties and grandparents and stuff like that. They would have been taught that because, and one of the things I tell my nieces and nephews, if you want lessons in life, look at your parents. Look at the struggles at your parents. It's no point in, 18, 17-year-old kids, Cameron. There's no point in wanting to grow up. If you wanted to grow up, just look at how what you're looking forward to when you look at your parents and how they're struggling to pay bills and how they look tired and so forth. Look at the struggles in their faces. So I always tell them, find a job that pays well. Don't have kids early. Be smart in that. Because our problem in our culture, we have kids for the sake of having kids. Yeah? And that's what I said to my nieces and nephews. Don't have kids too early, and save. And make sure that you are in a financial good position before you decide to have a family. So those are the advice that I give to my nieces and nephews when I get to talk to them.
That's really good advice. How do we empower our people then, to move in the future? Because I guess business is a way, education is a way to do better than what your parents did. But it's also that realization of that, you can't just say, I think with kids, they have to be told and they have to experience it. And it's putting them on that path because, my kids, the kids they're at that age where they're just finishing school, so they're at the crossroads of what to do next, trying to put them on that same path. It all starts with that. But yeah, I think about when my parents came, they came from the islands, they settled here. They had a start line of the bottom, right? In regards to, where we want to be in society. And when it comes to catching up to where the Balangis are, because they've had a head start in generational wealth and that, right? So we started at a starting point. Our starting point is when our parents came here, and then they have us, and we're into the system. What do we do? Like you said, what do we do in the system, and how do we move from that? And then we have kids; they have to be better than us, and then so on and so on. That's how generational wealth happens, huh?
Yeah, it is. But as you probably know, most islanders are not wealthy in the beginning. Most islanders don't have money passed down from, so forth. Yeah?
We started from scratch.
And that's the thing. And that's we started from the dirty jobs. Most of us that came in the 50s and 60s, all the dirty jobs, you know. So it was lessons in every generation of our people that have learned that. I would like to think they learned from them. But one of the other lessons that I also pass on to my nieces and nephews is that, you know, especially in terms of sports, I said, it's fine if you want to chase a dream, you know, sports, you know, if you can make it, cool. Love it if you make it. But also have a second plan. Also have a plan B in case you get injured, you know, trying to pursue an NRL career, something like that. Work on going to do a trade or something like that. When you know, because in the end of the day, it's trying to prepare them. Those dreams are not going to always be. You're not going to always fulfill it. No. So those are the other advice I used to give to my nieces and nephews as well. So, yeah.
Really good advice. So, man, so your campaign, like, what's coming up in the next few weeks, next few months?
In the next I'm hoping to organize a public meeting. At least in September, at least one. But a public meeting on just me. I don't want to debate anybody else unless they want to decide. But this is something new that just me, where people can come, open up to the public. People can come and ask questions. Or maybe an hour and a half of a session of people that can ask anything. Be open up to any question. Nothing is off topic. And like what I'm doing here with you, is that I regard myself as someone who's has a grasp on a lot of things, and that's my point in trying to have an understanding of everything that's happening around, whether anything, you know, because I read a lot. I even minuscule things that you probably won't even contemplate or you know, liking. That's how it is. I'm going the next few days to try and because now I found out that I'm under the Glendine electorate. I'll now learn more on Sipoloni, learn more on what has she done in I think the 3 terms that she's been. What has she cemented, you know, as a legacy. Same as Aucklander, but I know a little bit more about Aucklander than Sipoloni.
Are they both in your electorate?
Yeah, it turns out, you know, so she's the incumbent, Sipoloni, because the new boundaries transcend Kelston and so forth. So if I get a chance, won't be as cordial as such. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I find Island politics is Island politicians in general is that they go, what have you people done? It's wonderful to see our people in these sorts of positions. Yeah, wonderful. I'm glad that I'm alive to see that. But I said to someone the other day, Sipoloni is a deputy leader of Labour. Yeah, and once upon a time she was a deputy prime minister. Yeah. And I in my head, if I will confront this and I say, well, if that's the case, that's all nice. But why didn't you go another step further and actually go for the Labour leader job? Or why didn't you put your hand up for the Prime Minister job? Yeah?
Is there a reason?
You tell me. You tell me.
They don't want an Islander that high up?
Could be.
Yeah.
He could, or the fact that, because I'm an observer of people, Cameron, and I read between the lines when I hear people speak, especially on camera, on how they would do things and how they would cope, and Carmel doesn't come across as someone that will be I can rely on. Say, if there was another disaster like COVID, I can't see her being a front man like I saw maybe Jacinta was at that particular time. And that's always been my issue with a lot of Island MPs. You look at the Island MPs out in South Auckland, quiet as a mouse. Quiet. You know? You barely hear boo. And again, what have they done for those communities to be voted in constantly? And our problem with our people also is that we vote for the sake of, they look like us, one of us. Or it's for religious reasons. Samoans go to church, they'll vote for one of ours. And that's how I look at it. But I'm always a believer, once you leave politics, if you haven't done anything significant that impacts our communities or our people, what's the point? What is the point? Why were you there? You're just there to make up the numbers, because that's basically what it is. So I'm going to really heat it up a little bit later this year when I get a chance. If I'm not asked to be a part of any debates, I will crash it. I will tell you now, I will crash it. Any publicity is good publicity, as you would say, because in the end of the day, what's the point of a democracy if you can't be included? I had the same problem in 2017, where seven candidates standing in Te in one debate. 5 were asked, and in 2 they brought in from Kelston, not even bloody Newland. So I didn't understand. I was furious when I went there. So I stood up and made my point known. So that'll be something that I'll be doing later this year. The other thing also, I want to, as I was telling you earlier, I want to try and email a lot of media outlets to hopefully see if they're interested in talking to me. I'm not sure whether they will, because I'm a nobody, simple. But as I said to you before, if once the rolling enrollment forms come out and you see my name and face, we'll see how quickly the needle changes.
So I think your strategy now is a good one, like being on social media, being a presence on social media, commenting on any political things that come up. It's good, man, because I always see you come up and have something to say, so that's always good.
I haven't opened it up to the public. I said right now it's all just sort of friends and so forth. I'm a little bit worried to open up in the public, because I know how toxic. Once you open social media out to any random, I see it at all these other sites that I apply as well. So I'm a little worried whether I want to open up to the public or whether just maintain a status quo. There was I was at RSA last night, and a woman spoke to me and said, I'm going to do what you said at your launch, and I'm going to confront Sipoloni, because he comes up at RSA. Because one of the things I said to them, I said, when you see these people, especially when you see them in your red colours or blue colours, confront them. In the end of the day, you need to confront them. There's no point in them coming, because all I hear is looking for photo ops. That's all I hear for. Confront them on certain concerns that you have. Don't be afraid. And I said the same thing to them about me. I said, if you see me, don't be afraid to come and ask me or chat with me about your fears or whatever that's bothering you. Because in the end of the day, I can only give you an opinion, and you make your own judgments. No? That's it.
The thing I respect about that, what you said, and probably why I respect you as a independent, is because when you align yourself with a party, you actually got to come under everything that party stands for.
Very good.
And as an individual, like you've got to have something that you don't agree with.
Yep.
And the caucuses probably have debates, within themselves, and you can't tell me that everybody in that party, whether it be National, whether it be Labour or any other party, you can't tell me that none of these people, none of these ministers, none of these people have at least one thing they disagree with.
Yeah, they do.
You can't tell me. And because you got to be a party, you can't show it.
You got to toe the line.
You got to toe the line.
You got to toe the line. This is a manifest. We got to remember also these organizations are organizations, but they're no longer parties as we know it. They're actually businesses. These parties, political parties, are actually businesses. If you join them, you're actually an employee as part of their business. So you follow them, you follow the orders. It's no different to any other company you can. Simple as that. You may have some differences in opinion, but you can't say it because in the end of the day, you'll get sent up to the principal's office. That's simple as that. Whereas me, I don't have that. I don't have any leader telling me that you can't say this or you need to change your wording. I don't have that. My filter is what you hear. I'm speaking to you as the same way as I will speak to anybody during a campaign. And I won't hold back in terms of a lot of issues that are happening now. We mentioned health, for instance. Health has been a boogeyman in a lot of these parties, but they are at fault, all of them, because they're underfunded, deliberately underfunded. It should be at least three things that government should be. They should never have a bottom line. Is education. The likes of health, and also I believe it's crime. Those are the three things that I need to focus on. Those are the core values of any government. So you can't tell me that you taking money from here and here, and a few months down the line you got a problem because of that sector because you've taken that money just to help fill this other thing. So there's money there, and when they say there's no money, when you're giving money to landlords and to tobacco companies and the ferries are a debacle. We won't see a ferry until 2027, I believe, or 29. But we had to give I think it was South Korea 700 million because we cancelled the contract. Oh, bloody 700 million. So, and these and National is supposed to be a party of economics. They are supposed to be a party that they are budgeting and so forth. But so much money is wasted, But who suffers? Workers. Classic example is the pay parity agreements that all those women workers of different industries, 33 industries that they were in the process of negotiating their wages. To the workers, 33. It took a long time for those unions and labor and so forth to negotiate. They were all about to settle. Next thing you know, the incoming government cut all that. There was something like 1.something billion. Do you know why? It's because that money that they didn't want to give to wages of these, especially women jobs, went to save their budget of that year last year. That's why. And it came out when Seymour accidentally said, that money saved, Nicola's budget last year. That's why. So National don't care about people in low-paying jobs. They don't care about the vulnerable. They don't care about the disabled. They don't care about LBG people. Simple as that. And this is the division that we're seeing in this country. There's always going to be haves and have-nots, and unfortunately, it's gone wider.
Just recently, Christopher Luxon had this talk speech to the Indian
saw that.
Indian Prime Minister.
I thought it was the funniest thing I saw.
And the Indian community, and there's a whole venue of them, right?
10,000
in the convention center. I was thinking, has any government done that to the Pacific Island community? And I was thinking, damn, that's
no. I'm not even sure whether he thought that was going to be televised. I thought perhaps he thought it was it was just going to be kept in there because his speech was basically it was kissing ass to Modi, kissing ass literally. Indians, you make more, you make more money, you're good at business, and some say you're better looking. And I thought that was just hard case. Who says that? Who says that? And what leader would say that? And it's just fascinating when you see people bend over backwards. And this deal is not a silver lining as such, as the government's making out to be, because there are fishhooks in this deal, and not only the immigration issue, but also the money that our businesses in New Zealand are supposed to be spending on in India. We haven't seen a deal yet, so it hasn't come out until it's ratified later this year. So they haven't disclosed it. Once it's official, then we're going to see. So it may be worse than what they are telling us, and it probably is worse because no government is going to tell the truth when it comes to such things. So they're talking about 35 billion that we are supposed to invest in India for 15, 20 years, yeah. So that's how the deal. That's how Modi, Indian government, understands it. That our businesses, if they want to get into Indian market, is supposed to invest that amount of money. But Luxon has come out and said, well, not so much, not really. As if the business want to invest. That's what basically he's saying. So there's two different versions here. So I don't know which one is right. Luxon is only saying it probably to appease, the public here. Modi maybe saying something different to appease his public over there as well. So, these deals it's never free, and I don't even know why they use that word free all the time. Nothing's for free when it comes to so something has to give. So it's going to be interesting once that deal is going to be ratified, because if what we're hearing is basically in it, or it's gonna sort of cause some issues down the line.
Nice. So September, you gonna invite me to your talk?
Yeah. If I'm lucky enough to get a thing, like I said, at the end of the day, I want people to come and see me speak certain issues, Cam. I love politics in general because it keeps my brain ticking along. 24/7. That's me. When I finish here with you, I'll be going home online. I'll be. Once upon a time, I used to read a lot of paper. That was my way of interacting with the issues that I need to. But that also, I don't have that because I realize that I spend maybe $25 a week on just papers. And then I realize that the amount of papers I built up because I read certain issues, and then I buy the following paper next day and I read that, and then I go back to finishing certain other issues. So so now I've managed to read a lot online as well, and it's much more quicker in that way. I've never been a fan of reading things on phone or on laptop. It's always been a paper thing. I have a thing for just
to hold it.
Yeah, feeling the touch of paper, but they're not cheap, But I have a way of getting past that. I like Monday's paper. I'll go on Tuesday, and I go to Pack and Save or Dairy. Say, do you have Monday's paper? And if they do, it's generally free. So that's the way I put that way. So, yeah.
I haven't read into much politics lately. I am interested in it. I like to read about what our government's up to and what New Zealand's up to. I'm really fascinated about looking into like societies, like how societies are. Like I read books about that. I find books because I used to read like books physically, but then I don't have time to read physically anymore. So I do audiobooks now. So audiobooks is a good way to consume books without, having to sit down and read. Like you can listen to it in the car or stuff like that. So I get through a lot of books through audio. I prefer reading though. I like to look at the sentence, look at the words. Yeah. I prefer that. But no, I think I read a lot of books about history of how societies work. I read this book recently, or listened to this book recently about how corporations work and how the poor people get affected by it. I forgot the name of it. It's upstairs, but that was an interesting book about that kind of stuff, and it was an eye opener about how shareholding system works and how bad it is, how corrupt it can be. Yeah. Like how the CEOs make all this money just because they're making the shareholders money, and who gets affected? It's the workers, because they can lay off people just like that if they need to save money, that kind of stuff. So, but there's a lot of things in the world that are like that, like the financial institutions that invent new systems to make more money. Yeah. They invent these systems out of nothing, and people on the ground, they get affected, So
I mean,
it's constant.
You're likely have heard or seen. I mean, America, for instance. I mean, there is talk about, say, the American dollar, for instance. There's talk about that there may come a time where that may not be the currency of the world, because of the issues, countries are going through. You've seen other countries like South Africa, Brazil, that new block of countries, BRICS, for instance, who are now trading amongst themselves and wanting to use one of their own currency as a trading commodity rather than the American dollar. The same as China, or Russia. They want to sort of trade together using maybe the yen, for instance, rather than again the American dollar. The likes of a country like America, just 250 years now, old right now. If you read that little bit about the book you just said, then you also understand the history of empires. Every empire eventually falls. Every empire. In America's time, it will be a time when that will happen. When, right now, say India is the third biggest economy in the world. Yeah, they say that within 10 years, or it will be maybe the second, if not the first. Depending on where China will be. But it doesn't really matter, regardless that America's influence in the world will dramatically change, because I would say the countries now have now seen, opened their eyes. They can't depend on the likes of America, as ally. You look at the NATO situation like that. All these other countries have to do their own pacts together. And the UK has to now spend more money on defence and stuff like that, because they can't rely on America. If anything, maybe they think that America could be the aggressor, or could be the country they could invade, like Trump was talking about invading Greenland, for instance. Nothing is guaranteed now. So now these countries have a problem in the future to see whether they need to start their own different allies or alliance, and strengthen their own defense. Our country has just budgeted this year, I think, $several billion in our defense force. You think, well, what the hell you need money for our defense for? Oh, who's going to attack us? You know? So several $1 billion in defense. Never that before. Never. That's what, what's her name, Collins did before she left. She was the one that brought that in. But what are you gonna spend their money on?
Well, we sold our Air Force. We sold our fighter jets a long time ago.
Because they were old.
They were old, and why?
Our ships were old.
We don't need them, right?
Yep.
And it's funny because I was in Hawaii a few years ago, and first time in a long time I heard a fighter jet, and they are so loud, man. They're like, wow. I remember, man, I used to hear that when I was a kid, like when New Zealand used to have it. I forgot how loud they were. But yeah, you're right. We don't have a.
I mean, if anything, I would have wanted them to buy more Coast Guard vessels, because we have an issue with drugs coming in from all over the place, and also poaching and all that. That's how the nearest defense capability that we are. We have the odd ship that goes and does. Aid work or helps, send soldiers, like engineers or something like that to rebuild or whatever. We still do that. But when you spend so much money on something that, well, who's going to invade us? But this is the mindset. They're looking, wait, just in case. Really? And considering, you use that money for far, far more important things. So, like I said, there is money, but unfortunately, it's lobbying is a massive, massive issue that I hate. I don't know if you read what I put up. When I first announced my candidacy, there's 3 policies that is unconditional for me. One is to get rid of all MP perks. All MP perks,
the car, the house that they rent,
including PMs and those. Once you leave Parliament, that's it. You don't get nothing. The other one is also lobbying from companies, wealthy company lobbying the limits, or get rid of that too, because that's also heavily influencing our policies. You just have to watch the likes of Jones and with fisheries. Heavily lobbied from the fisheries industry with Jones and Winston Peters racing.
Wasn't the latest thing I heard they were going to get rid of the quota of fish or the size?
No, it was the fishing by just normal people. I can't, normal people. You can't fish a certain amount. Oh. That's what they wanted to get. But you saw a backlash on that, including I don't know if you remember the ITM fishing guy, Matt Walsh, one of those fishing people on TV. He came out against it, and unfortunately, Jones finally got the word that he had to back down, because even the Prime Minister said, no, this is a distraction. But the other issue also is racing, horse racing, with Winston Peters. Now, how the hell, they are, I think by next year, they're getting rid of or stopping greyhound racing, yeah? But yet we still have horse racing. But yet, horse racing is a small industry per se. Look at Avondale Racecourse. Eventually, they're getting rid of that. Yeah.
They've been trying to get rid of that for a long time.
But that's it. They are getting it. There'll be houses there in the future, and that's what I'm saying. They're looking at what they're going to build at. Racing is a small industry. There's no. Why are we pouring money? Yet they come knocking on Winston Peters. Oh, hi, can we see you? Well, we'll give you some money for blah blah blah. So he supported the racing industry for so many years. Again.
It sounds like the how the government spent $6 million to get to get that restaurant thing here, the Michelin stars, just for a few. Again, small industry in New Zealand, bigger industry around the world, small in New Zealand. Spend that money to get
the Samoan chef one.
Yeah, which is great, but And for a taxpayer's point of view, is it worth it?
Great.
I mean, they say it's to bring tourists in. If you've got Michelin star restaurants in New Zealand, tourists will come.
The restaurants are already there. Didn't need, didn't need all those fancy, didn't they? The food is expensive as it is now. You bring in any more things like that, Michelin star, they're not cheap. But it also only serves a certain quota of people who can afford to go into those. How many islanders are going to go in there? I may go into have a visit at island restaurant myself and just have a look. But then again, when you look at those portions when they serve in these sort of, small.
You can still go KFC afterwards.
Yeah. What's the point? What is the point? And so, and the other third issue that I won't back down on, Cam, is donations. That's it on donations. I want to sort of limit or cut a certain amount of money where actually no. I actually want the government to offer parties taxpayer money to advertise for their campaign. I know no donations from wealthy individuals or corporations. I also want to see the electioneering itself be cut to a small period. You only need 2 weeks. Yeah. Soon you're going to have weeks of billboards hanging about. Yeah. You don't need. All you need is something like 2 weeks. That's it. How long are people's memories? That's all. And imagine the amount of money that you can save by cutting back, by reducing the size of the electioneering process.
I think by the end of, because when they put the billboards up, if it's like a month or whatever, by the end of the month, the amount of vandalism that's on those boards,
they're not cheap.
The amount of spray paint on the
they're not cheap. That's why I haven't gone down that path.
The devil horns on the face.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it's like you don't need that length of time for people to see who. Yeah. All you need is just once the enrollment papers come through, that's all you see. That's it.
Because you don't like the lobbyists, there's this movie, have you seen The Distinguished Gentleman?
I know it.
Stars Eddie Murphy. It came out in the 90s or 2000s. Man, that's a hilarious movie. And that's a movie I watched that my first time I heard of a lobbyist. Because you know what that movie's about. Eddie Murphy's a con man. And he goes into, because his name is the same name as the congressman in his area. The congressman in his area, he dies, and he goes for uses his name, so his name recognition, right? That's how he gets in, which is the American thing, right? Which is a common thing that happens there. Like if you don't know who to vote for, oh yeah, I know that guy. I remember his name. I'll vote for him. But he goes into Congress to be a con man, but he actually gets conned himself because of all the lobbyists. So he's experiencing a lobbyist come in and say, we'll pay you this to make this decision. And then on the other side of that same argument, the lobbyist on the other side will pay him to do the opposite, and he will take the money. So then the question is, okay, I took the money from this side to not do this, but I took the money from the other side to not do it either. So how do we get things done? And the real congressman says, well, that's the beauty of it. Nothing gets done.
Tick the boxes. You make it look like it's done. You make it looking like it's going through the process.
And that's corrupt but it's legal.
But it's a system. It's a system that we have a Westminster system, from the monarchy up in England, and again it's a different system to say how America and so forth are under. But all of these systems have their own fishhooks. Have their own problems. Yeah, it looks good on paper when we speak it, but there are always ways of getting around. As you said earlier, loopholes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a fascinating time.
For me, when I went on November, in the perfect world, I'll pick every policy from everybody I like, and I'll vote for that person. You can't do that.
One thing a friend said to me recently, and this was interesting when he said to me, he said, if I were to change the system, you were talking about going back to first past the post system. Well, a friend of mine said, if, in an ideal world, I would want everybody to be an independent. Yeah. Everybody who wants to stand for an MP to be an independent rather than a party. That way, whoever wins that particular wherever they stand, come together to form a government and to vote a leader to be prime minister or so forth. That's what he said.
Do you think that's a better way of getting all the policies you want?
Yeah, I do in some sense, because that way you can have an argument yourself without following through the party lines. Because part of the problem we have in our system is that we have to follow party ideology. Yeah, I mean the likes of current coalition is always business orientated. The likes of the left leaning is always union based. Unions. Without the unions for Labour, I don't know what they'll be, So, and you're looking at the Greens as well. Greens have now more or less have become a mini Labour to some extent. They no longer, you don't see them stand for much of the environmental issues as such, but it's more social issues as such. Te Pāti Māori is a little bit more activism in there, not so much unlike the original Sharpos and Ture. And this, there's only so much activism you do, protest and hikois and protests you can do in the party. If you ever want to join a part of a government, then you need to realize you need to compromise. It's all about compromising. That's it. Put down your differences and see if you can join the likes of National or something and see what you can get out of it. I mean, in Turia, in Sharpos, hence the whānau order. Who would have ever thought they would have achieved something like that when he went there with Key? Everybody hated him for them. They didn't expect them to go, but they did. Because they saw the value of going into government, even with the devil, rather the devil than the devil you don't know. Then rather than going to with Labour, where they make you say things, all these pleasant platitudes, but when it comes to time to signing things, maybe we not so much. No.
It's like that. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yeah. And to some extent, that's what politics is, Cameron. But. There are a lot of things. I mean, 4-year cycle, for instance. I'm for that. We were talking about term limits. I don't know if you. I'm in term limits. I'm for term limits, where an MP can only stand for maybe 2 terms or 4 terms or 3 terms or something like that. Same as a PM, you only stand for maybe 2 terms as a prime minister. Step aside, because. My thinking of that is so that we can bring people constantly from, revolving people. Otherwise, we were stuck with the likes of Winston's been there for 40 years, and so many other people have been there, 20 plus years. Well, what's the point? When others are still waiting behind the scenes. And one of the biggest things that pisses me off about politics in general is that they constantly talk about, we represent a certain amount of people in communities and so blah, blah, blah. But do you? Are you really representing? How many cleaners are standing as an MP, as a candidate? How many road workers are holding a lollipop sign? Do you see standing, putting their name as a candidate? I mean, when do you know of someone who goes and cleans those drains, where people, toilet stuff? Have you seen anybody from that sector put his name up as a candidate for MP? No. Those are real people. But yet you don't see anybody from those areas, standing up as a candidate. And that's where I bring a little bit of the difference, because I come from this sort of environment where I get my hands dirty, where I'm physically buggered from all the work that I've done, that I'm on low wage and stuff like that. I work night shifts. I don't sleep much and stuff like that. I come from that environment which is affecting a lot of people that I know, rather than the ex-lawyers that you see constantly go into a parliament. With your business people like Luxon, always business people, ex-business people go in there, or academics who come from universities or background, who learn their trade from becoming their PAs or whatever to MPs, and then eventually work their way up to become candidates and then MPs, stuff like that. None of those people represent the people that I know. None of them. And so that's the thing that really pisses me off. If you want a real look at how politics represents real people, normal people, then we need to see more people that come from these industries that are not represented.
Nice. Tua, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast, man.
All good, man.
So where can people find you if they want to know more?
Just follow, send a request on my Facebook, and then like I said, I'm wary of opening up certain things, because again, I'm only interested in conversing and interacting with people that actually want to learn, and I want to make this quite clear. I don't really want to change people's minds, but I want to give them options to say, this is another way of looking at things without, growing up like us Islanders always following the Labour. My household, my mum is Labour. She thinks I'm standing for Labour. And then the funny thing is, though, we never really interacted in terms of politics. As soon as I put my, dabbled my foot in politics in 2016, she followed Samoan politics. She's a fast follower, that group. And I have family who are in that, former government up in Samoa as well. And they said, why don't you come? That's just politics itself. You can't get nothing done. Too much language and too much of these words mean nothing. Too much money going, you don't even see where the money goes. So, so that's why I'm not a Matai, bro. I said, no. I want a happy life. I don't want a stress life.
Nice. So, you're one of the real ones, man. And I look forward to coming along and hearing you speak in September.
As I now know that the electorate now is Glendine, so that includes your area, Cam.
All right.
I've always said, in my launch, pass it on to people that are in friends and stuff like that. So now it's going to be really good, because I know a lot of people in this extended boundary. So, it's going to be game on.
All right. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro.
West, y'all.